Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode, live event of the TFLG, Test, Fail, Learn, Grow, House of Bricks. We are live here in Birmingham, Michigan, and I am smiling because the sun is shining, and I'm going to keep talking about it. It has been a dark and cold winter for me, that combined with thousands of Zoom calls. I am ready to get outside and start having some fun. Little too early for the boat, but the golf clubs are seeing their way up from the basement. As you know, I'm Adam House, founder and CEO. And I also call myself the luck guru because I don't believe in luck at all, right? The more we show up, the more we increase our surface luck area, the more opportunities we have. And it's that consistency, accountability, and discipline. You can beat 80% of your competition by simply showing up. So now I want to ask you this. What happens when your clients start getting more value from you and your time than you're getting in return? And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, I've lived it in many times in life. And sometimes when you're starting a business or coming up with new programs or pricing models, you really don't know what your time can be worth. And what's happening, right, is you end up doing all the heavy lifting. They're getting all the results, and there isn't really a lot of accountability. And that's not leadership. That's imbalance. And the longer that lasts, the more it's going to cost you. So today's guest is someone who figured this out the hard way. And I'm ready to learn here because I'm still figuring it out here at the House of Bricks with our advisory services, coaching community. I love what we've built. It's been difficult, but building anything great is messy. And I'm very proud of our community and the people we have it. And so I want to welcome a guest today from our community, Steffan. I'm just kidding. Steffan Surdek. So that's my Michigan and terrible pronunciation of names that are not simple like Adam and Paul. So want to welcome you to the show because we're going to learn a lot about how you've built trust, team dynamics, and create some space for conversations that are going to move things forward.
Hey, thanks for having me, Adam. I think we're going to have a great time this afternoon.
Well, I promise you we will, because I've got a lot of great questions for you. And there's a lot of people out there that are learning more about our test, fail, learn, grow methodology. And it really is a way that you can approach every area in life. You don't need to hit a home run every time you get to the plate, right? It's testing different things. You're failing, you're learning, you're growing. So talk to us a little bit about your first major shift. What was that test you had to make in your business? What was the bold move and how did you improve it?
So I've been in business since 2017. I started my consulting company. I was originally working in concert with another consulting business, and we decided to split up at one point. And what I found in the first few years of my business, I used to be on site at clients all the time, and it worked out well. But in 2020, when COVID hit, it kind of changed. It changed everything. It changed everything for everyone, and that included me and my business. So all of a sudden, I went from being busy to I'm not doing anything anymore, and I had to find ways to work through that with my existing clients and find different ways to market my services after that because the old way wasn't going to work anymore.
Well, I love that. And I love the model change, right? Because people ask me, well, how long did it take you to do that? Well, it may have taken me an hour to do the activity, but it took 27 years of testing, failing, learning, and growing to be able to do that in an hour. And I know when you change pricing is difficult. Did you run into any challenges or were there fears with that?
Well, just to be clear on the original challenge at the time where my business was breaking was, as a lot of consultants, I was charging on an hourly basis, and my clients were often paying me in advance with the bank of hours. So they'd essentially be putting money in the kitty and saying, okay, when this burns out, then we'll put more. And usually we kind of budgeted, okay, so I'm putting this much, but this is considering X number of days a week, X number of hours a month at this rate, and that's what I'm paying you in advance. And when COVID hit, what happened is all of a sudden my clients kind of disappeared. they were so busy trying to survive, trying to get through this, trying to get organized, that I couldn't go at the office to see them. They weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And, out of sight, out of mind. So what ended up happening for me was I was struggling to kind of burn through the budgets and burn through the plans that I had with clients because they just weren't around me anymore. So the first thing I tried at the time to get through it was, during that first year, I just started booking regular one-on-ones with clients. And I said, we're just going to put this on the calendar. If you need to cancel, you need to cancel, that's fine. But we have these regular slots that I know that I'm working with you. I have these regular slots where I know I'm in your team meetings. And, but it was still the hourly exchange of money, and budgets that were supposed to last a year, 6 months, lasted an entire year. So at the end, I was losing out a lot on that, on doing business like that.
Okay. So no change goes how you want it to, right? And what were, with that decision, were there challenges that you faced in this shift, and what were they?
So I decided after the first year, I said, I'm going to change how I'm pricing things now. And when I spoke with some of my clients about it, I made them aware of the problem. And I said, when we were doing business this way last year, I tried it because we always work this way, but it worked fine for you, but it was really broken for me. So the thing that I needed to get through to clients is, how can you be accountable for what we're doing? Not just me being accountable for burning through hours, but you be accountable for the business that you're doing with me, making sure that we're doing something together and not me doing busy work.
Well, and this is the trap, right? When you're making change, things look good on paper. How did your clients respond to that? Did you lose some?
So there's one that I had let go at the time because I realized I just did not want to work with that group anymore. And there's a few others that when I told them what I wanted to do, at first when I said, this doesn't work for me, they smiled and they said, but now how do you want to do this? And the way that I changed it with these clients is I said, okay, so we're supposed to work 2.5 days a week together, for example. So now what we're going to do is you're going to prepay me for that. You're going to pay me every month, kind of a retainer fee. And you're always going to pay me the same amount. If I do less hours, not my problem. If I do more hours, not your problem. And I'm going to assume that by the end of the year, it's going to balance out. So I had some clients that were saying, but you're asking me for a blank check. And I had other clients saying, well, you're asking me for a blank check, but I know you're going to make this right. So I'm okay to try it. So I tried it for a year with some of my clients, and with some of them, I've been doing business this way ever since, because for them, it's very predictable.
Well, what I know about you from our interactions with the community, I'm sure with your clients, you'd already built trust. You execute at a high level and a level of excellence. And in what you're doing, it is a relationship, right? It should be two-way. And so being able to communicate that, and the clients you lost may have been a good thing. Like sometimes it's good to let a client go. Do you go ahead.
I was going to say what this created too. I remember one client that I worked like this since I started the system. The client was frustrated because they felt they weren't getting enough for their money. And it's like, okay, cool. But, look at all these one-on-ones that you're canceling on me. Look at all these things that are happening that I'm not there. Now, I'm okay if you're not getting value, but because now we're doing this on a monthly basis, it's like, well, let's just stop. If this doesn't work for the next month, let's stop.
Yeah, my mind's running because I just couldn't function in a way where if I have something on my calendar, unless something happened that it was outside of my control, like either not showing up or not getting notice. But I've consistently seen over time, and like I said in the introduction, just showing up is 80% of the battle. And I know the way you show up is with your best. So you're putting that time, right? Thinking about the client, you want to show up with your best, and then they're no showing, they're canceling. So in these revised engagements, are you tell us a little bit more about your coaching, why someone would work with you, and are they outcome based? Like, where are they now? What are they trying to get by working with you?
So typically I work with two types of clients. I'll work with leadership teams themselves. So when I work with those, those leadership teams that have meetings together, they go around in circles, they can't really have the real conversations together. There's no trust. There's a lot of unspoken things, a lot of, unproductive meetings, no decisions being made. Those teams, I'm the whisperer for those teams. I'm the person that you bring, and that brings them structure, and that helps them build that trust, that helps them see how can you have productive conflict together, and how can you be the team that you're asking your teams to be.
There's one part of that I want to ask you to dig a little deeper on. So say the trust is there, but they are still going around in circles. And I know every company does this, including us at times in the House of Bricks. You have the same conversations over and over again, and you don't really take action on either A, not doing it, or B, moving forward with it. Is that something you're doing as well? Like, even if the trust is there, they're having conflict, but it's like, hey guys, how many times are you going to talk about this?
So the problem that you're having and what you're describing isn't necessarily a problem of trust. It's a problem more of decision making, of real commitment and buy-in, probably, and accountability. Sometimes in teams, we'll have these conversations, we'll talk together, but it's kind of, I'm afraid to say something that's going to upset you, so I'm going to hold that back, right? And then there starts being these little pieces where I realize I'm not really safe voicing my opinion in the group, so I'll just go with the flow. And when people make decisions, there's not clarity on what decision was made. One simple thing that I teach teams is this model where I ask them at the end of the meeting, review the decisions that you've made. What's the decision? What does it imply? When does the decision take effect? Who's taking action? And just by doing that, it's clear that you made a decision.
Now, are these companies running typically your clients some sort of operating system like an EOS? Or
not necessarily. I tend to work with larger corporate clients, so they don't run with an EOS or something like that. I've never worked with a company that does. I've done it in my business, but I haven't worked with a client that does that. EOS brings some of those things, with the 3 strikes you're out rule, talking about values, leveraging values to make sure that you have the right people in the right chairs that are doing the right things. And then there's just the overall structure that forces conversations. But that's part of what I bring, but differently, not in the form of an EOS.
Understood. And what I like about you and just bringing out in outside help, coaches, advisors, mentors, is they're not in the weeds of the everyday. And even if you have a great leadership team and you are decisive, it still helps to have outside input. Do you have clients that are kind of bringing you in that capacity as well?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Sometimes I'll have clients that bring me in because they're having an offsite for a couple of days, and they want to work on communication while going through their topics. So I use one of my other programs and I deliver it in 2 days, and I customize it based on the topics that they want to discuss. So for example, a while back, I worked with a group of associates in a business, and we were talking about building trust. And part of building trust is exposing yourself, being vulnerable to your team. So the question that we use, the conversation that we use to create that between them is, how do you see yourself investing yourself as an associate in the next 5 years? Are you almost on your way out? Are you very new as an associate and you want to dig in more? what do you want to do? And it created a conversation that created clarity for them, but also that helped them bond.
Do you think leaders have overcorrected though on the vulnerability, authenticity, transparency? First of all, I think they're all still being used to manipulate people in certain ways. It's just human nature. But when I'm being led by someone, what or when you're coaching leaders, what is the balance between being vulnerable, like, hey, we're going to run out of money by Friday, versus I've got this, I'm confident, and whatever example you want to use? What's the balance of vulnerability to your team?
So I think the first thing is kind of defining vulnerability, because there's different kinds of vulnerability in business. Sometimes a lot of people see vulnerability as being over emotional. And if you're over emotional, that becomes an act and people get tired of that pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's places too where it's useful to be vulnerable, because as a leader, when we're leading in the way that you were saying earlier, we tend to take a lot on our shoulders. We tend to carry a lot. And then what ends up happening is that we get overwhelmed. We get, we have too much, and we find our way to get in a burnout situation at one point. So it's useful to talk to our people before we have a breakdown, to say, hey, I need some help. I need some support. This is how you can support me. But vulnerability is also about saying, I fucked up. Because sometimes as leaders, we deflect the blame on others too. And sometimes vulnerability is being able to say, I was wrong here. I made the wrong decision. So it depends how you want to see that word.
Yeah, I believe there's many definitions to it. And I think how you described it is perfect. And a lot of times leadership, right, is not saying anything at all. At times you can,
Yeah.
leadership doesn't mean words. A lot of times it can be, it relates to listening. And I think that's a skill that a lot of leaders lack, that's developed over just time and maturity. So we've talked about your testing, your failing. Let's get into the learn phase. What went well, what didn't, and what did you learn from all of this?
So one of the biggest things that I learned is owning my worth. Because as a consultant, when I started, I used to undervalue myself. So, I would put a price out there, and sometimes I'd put lower than I should have, because I really wanted clients to say yes. And one of the things that I learned by doing that experiment of the pricing that I did is that I have less fear of doing that, because I know that when I work with the team, they're going to get a lot more value than what they're paying for. And I know that I'm not going to negotiate again with them for an extra or for this or for that. So it's kind of, I like to see it as all inclusive pricing. When I tell you it's going to cost you X amount for the day, if you're asking me for a bit more, I'm not going to charge you more. So I learned how to own that as a consultant, and that took me a while to do. And even sometimes, I remember last year we had a contract with someone coming up, and when I made the proposal, my assistant said, well, maybe we should be charging a bit less. And I said, no, if they really want me, that's what they're going to pay. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what they ended up paying. But you have to trust yourself for that. And I think that's the biggest thing that I learned, is to not compromise on that, and to respect myself in that.
What you're saying oftentimes, though, is easier said than done for
Oh yeah.
a newer consultant, or making a pricing change, or you're a startup
Yes.
founder. We go through this all the time. They just think, well, I just
Oh
need
yes.
sales and cash. So if someone would pay 1,000 instead of 2,000, they'll do it today instead of next week. You get in that chicken and egg. Well, I want to respect myself, but I also don't, I need money to run my business and feed my family. How do you
And
get,
at the
yeah, go
and
ahead.
at the same time, when you do too much of that, what I found is you end up with the wrong clients. You end up with clients that feel they can treat you any way that they want, and you don't find yourself doing work that you enjoy. So there's a time and a place where you need to make a choice on the clients that you take and why you take those clients. And it's okay to make exceptions, but if you're always doing the exception as a consultant, you're never really building what you want. You're just, making money for the sake of bringing money in, but it's not necessarily good money. I can work less with clients now and make more than I was making 7 years ago, just because how I offer my services is very different. So if I'm offering a 2-day training course, I can make $10,000-15,000 out of a 2-day training course, right? So it's about how do you balance the mix of the revenues that's coming into your business.
And I know there's people out there listening that are wrestling with this because they know they need revenue, they know they need sales, they know they're worth more than they're charging. Can you give some practicals of what you went through? Because I don't think it's just a light switch you can flip on or off.
No, it's not. It's not a light switch. You have it's uncomfortable. Like the first time that I was telling my clients that I was moving to the monthly model, I felt super bad talking to my clients about it. I actually felt guilty talking about it and saying, hey, I didn't feel I was begging. I was more confident than that. But there was something uncomfortable for me to say, hey, I'm going to charge you this every month, whether I'm doing hours or not. But
And
what
I
I
asked
learned
you,
over
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But what I learned over time is when the system gets skewed too much in my favor, I just start giving them things. So sometimes I'll go see a client and I'll say, this program that I charge X for my clients usually, how about I do this for you inside the engagement that we're doing now? And I won't charge you anything more. I want to try this new program. Can we try it together? Then I get to try new material. And it's really about building trust with the people that you're working with and really focusing on delivering value. When you take your clients for granted, this system doesn't work.
And when they're taking you for granted, I think is
Yes.
important, right? It's a relationship, especially in what you're doing. And oftentimes when you are working with a coach or an advisor and they're 10,000 a month and you offer 5,000, one of my favorite books is Never Split the Difference, because it just, you have to know your worth. You have to know your value. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable is really how you make that transition. And so you've perfectly gone through this test, fail, learn process. I want to get into the growth part as we start to wrap up, but tell us about the growth phase.
So right now, the growth phase is what I'm trying to do now with my business. I'm trying to shift yet again how I'm pricing and selling things. And right now I'm living the discomfort a little bit of, okay, now do I have the guts to go and bring this out to the world? So, you have to see these things as iterations and build on top and say, okay, so I got through the first hurdle. Now this is just an evolution of that. And you're still delivering value, but in a different way. So now how do you want to get yourself out there and go do that? And I find the growth comes when we accept the discomfort. When we say, oh, I'm uncomfortable right now. This sucks, but it's gonna be okay. I have to just push myself through this. And the best way to raise your rates is to raise your rates and see what people say. And I've done that gradually on some of my programs. And there's some of my programs that that I charge what I charge, and I know some competitors charge less for the same thing. And when people ask me, well, why don't I go see them? I go, you can go, but you're not going to get me.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying that extra X number of $100 to work with me. So you can go if you want. You're just not going to get the same thing. I know it. You just don't yet.
So would you say you're in the early stages of the growth now? That's where you are.
I've had a lot of growth in terms of personal growth, how to sell myself. Now it's about how to sell different types of programs. That's the growth I'm looking for now. More high value programs that require less of my time. So how to do that, how to market that, how to sell that to people, that's the growth that I'm working on right now. That's the place that I'm trying to figure out.
Well,
And
I
I'm
know.
lucky.
Oh, I apologize.
I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
lucky in
Yeah.
the sense that I have an existing customer base. So I can go to some of my clients, I can bounce ideas off of them and see. It's a bit easier than brand new consultants that have to build that for themselves. But you still have to go out there and do it, because it doesn't happen if you don't go out there and do it.
Just to wrap this up and bring it home, and I know just from my interactions with you in the community, how you show up, your level of detail, helping us even with some of the things that we're doing. I'm confident that 2025 is going to be a year of growth for you. If people want to learn more about you or how to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you? And I know Paul will put your information in LinkedIn, but what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The best way is actually LinkedIn, because you get to see, I post 3 times a week, and I try to post things around leadership development, around some of my approaches to coaching, how I do things differently potentially than others. And I do that to give you ideas, to give you different ways of seeing how you can grow as a leader. So that's the best way. If not, you can always reach out to me at my company email at info@surdek.com, and I'll get back to you. We can get on a call and just chat and get to know each other.
For the people that are listening and wondering if they are a fit for you, who do you view as the perfect client for you, and who you are a perfect advisor or coach for?
So I work well with director and above in terms of title in the company. So directors, vice presidents, CEOs, I tend to work well at that level. I can work with individuals, or I can work with leadership teams. So if you're struggling with your leadership team, the dynamics are poor, you need someone to be a little bit more hands-on to help you figure it out. That's what I do. And as a leader, if you're looking to change your leadership style, to get to a more collaborative leadership style with your people, I do one-on-one coaching around that as well.
Well, thank you for jumping on today. I certainly learned some things, reaffirmed some thoughts that I'm having. And again, thank you for being a member of the House of Bricks community. For people that aren't watching and aren't a part of our community, there's great people. It's not the Adam House show. We have an awesome community of great people, and we'd love to have more people be a part of it. So connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to our Substack newsletter. It's full of great content, and continue to test, fail, learn, and grow, because you have to learn from the failure or history will repeat itself. So thank you everybody for joining. We'll see you next week. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you all next week.